his behalf that will prove his innocence. The difficulty to this point is that in his actual case file that a judge will consider, nothing has been presented to date. And so that's why we had some difficulty with the earlier lawyers. But his statement and perhaps a little examination of some of the Mexican custom officials will be presented on July 9th. And then this builds a case file, which at some point will be presented for the judge to make a ruling. So that's where we stand today.
Have you been receiving a lot of support from members of Congress? I mean, because it seems, I know there's so many people who say, well, why can't so-and-so make a phone call? Why can't the White House make a phone call? Or representatives or senators from California. I mean, I don't think it's that incredibly easy, just one phone call and he's sprung. But have you been receiving support from members of Congress?
You bet. We've had a number of supporters. Duncan Hunter, I talked to a representative for Darrell Issa, and of course we've had several senators that have weighed in. But, you know, the thing you have to realize here is that Mexico's a sovereign nation, and they do have an independent judiciary. And unfortunately, he was at the border, and he had firearms in his car. And under the same standards that we have, which is called probable cause, that's enough to make an arrest. And at that point, their judicial system has to go through its process. So now we're kind of in an expedited phase where that defense is being presented, and it's going to be in a series of stages. But I think that there's every reason to believe that he's factually innocent, and that's clearly a defense in this case, that he lacked the criminal intent and that this was a mistake and that he had no intent to ever go into Mexico with any firearms. So as we move it along, that's what we hope to be able to prove up.
And I hope to see that happen as well. I know that originally when initially when he was first imprisoned, there were a lot of really disturbing reports that, you know, he had been targeted by other prisoners, that his health maybe wasn't so well, his emotional mindset, it wasn't so well because of just the stress of being in that particular prison. Has that improved?
Yes, it's improved dramatically because he was moved to El Hongo prison, and he's in isolation with a 24-hour guard. But you know what happened to him at La Mesa is a very, very scary thing, because unfortunately, an organization called the Mexican Mafia is not only very powerful in California prisons, but also in Mexico. And so they can be very threatening. And that's what happened to Andrew. And getting him out of there was something that I think some of the media and people like yourself really helped with. And now that he's in El Hongo, he's in a much better situation, and he's also getting substantial spiritual help. And a couple organizations that work with us at Serving California, one's Baja Christian Ministries and the other one's Prison Fellowship, actually have prison ministries there. And so he's being seen every day by a representative of one of those two organizations who to his Christian faith and has that kind of spiritual help that we've been able to provide. So I think he's prepared to, present himself in court and prove up his innocence, and he has faith that justice will be done.
Wonderful. Now, with your background as an attorney and your contacts, you were able to select or get Fernando Benitez. I was reading about him. I read one headline. It said, it's Philip Dunn was able to secure a rock star Mexican attorney. Tell us a little bit about this Fernando Benitez.
Well, I have been a criminal defense attorney in California for 30 years, and so there's kind of a fraternity of those of us that are willing to take on the government in high-profile cases, and Fernando Benitez is the real deal. What I love best about him when we were interviewing him is at one point he told us that he pays his taxes to the peso, because he gets audited every year. And those of us who take on the government in cases like this, prosecutors' offices, understand the potential for intimidation, and therefore you live a squeaky clean life so that they'll never have anything on you. And so when he told me that story, I know we had the real deal, that this is someone who has the courage, has the background, and has a long series of successful defenses to present this case and do it in a manner which can prove his innocence. So we're doing that. We're doing it on both sides of the border. We have investigators that are going through that border crossing, proving up in how incredibly deceiving it is when you get on that particular on-ramp, how you're barricaded in so that you can't get out and you're forced into Mexico. So we're hitting it hard on both sides of the border, and we have a lot of confidence in Fernando.
Yes, and speaking of his background, your background as well, I'm curious as to how you came to be working with the Tamarices, because just looking at you mentioned the Baja Christian Ministries. You're one of the founding members of that. You're 30 years in criminal defense, and you've also done a lot of charitable work in Mexico, building homes for individuals. You still have your private practice. I mean, you have a pretty extensive background as well. So, what brought you to the defense of Sergeant Tamarese?
It was through the director of our Veterans Affairs here, a former Marine and, might I say, war hero, Chad Robenshaw, who is a Marine and was, drawn to the situation. And I'm not sure whether Jill called him or he called her, but anyway, they had a number of conversations. Of course, the motto of the Marine Corps is "We leave no man behind." And so he was discussing it with me, and ultimately Jill gave me a call, and I have this background in both criminal defense, these connections in Mexico, and I'm the president of this foundation that is called to look after war heroes like Andrew that have PTSD. He was diagnosed with that shortly before this occurred. Right. So it seemed like something that, was just in my wheelhouse, and so I agreed to take it on.
Well, and we are very thankful that you did. God bless you for that and for everything that you've been doing, not just with Serving California, but with the Baja Christian Ministries and the Prison Fellowship and all of that. We're going to be following this case, and we'd love to have you back as well. Thank you so much for all you do. And folks, you can find Phil's website, servingcalifornia.org. A great cause. Phil, thank you so much.
All right. It was my pleasure. Thank you for all you're helping us with. It really makes a difference.
Of course. Thanks so much again. We'll talk again soon. Phil Dunn, everyone, and you can find him at servingcalifornia.org. Great organization. And he's also on the board of directors there for Baja Christian Ministries. I'm so glad to hear that he is receiving, that Tamarese is receiving, just not only his physical needs met, his emotional needs, he's being taken care of health-wise, but his spiritual needs as well, because you can imagine the amount of just mental duress that someone is, especially after they've served and they're dealing with PTSD. It's wonderful that he's receiving that help, but keep the pressure on. Folks, quick break. 866-455-9797. We're going to be opening up the phone lines here shortly. Friday is open line phone lines. We have Mailbag of Hate coming up as well. Keep it here. Under my thumb, the squirming dog who's just had her day. Under my thumb.
This is The Dana Show.
Who has just changed her ways.
Talk lines are open now at 866-455-9797. This is The Dana Show.
Two things of awesomeness. One was something that Jordan Crunch, a.k.a. Jason Church, a.k.a. Church Dog, brought to my attention. involving Amy Adams, who I've always found, I liked her when she was, what's that movie about Julia Child? I love movies that are about food, and that, well, I know there was about other things, but she played that lady who was doing all of Julia Child's recipes. Amy Adams is the actress. I loved that movie. That was a good movie. She's been in a ton of, wasn't she in Superman? She's,